Hey guys, today's video will be a short guide to Dragonite, the newly released all-rounder in Pokemon Unite. If you guys, as always, if you enjoy this content, I would appreciate if you guys leave a like or subscribe to the channel. And yeah, what is his playstyle? So he is more like a range bruiser type. He does have range auto attacks a lot. He has two different abilities that make his kit. One is Outrage, that makes him more like a melee character, and the other one is Hyper Beam, which makes him a ranged auto attacker. He's decently tanky, he has very good mobility, so where does he fit into the game? Is he a jungler or laner? I think he can be both. The only thing is, in jungle there might be better junglers out there that are just stronger. And in lane, he just needs to level. He doesn't have the best laning phase, it's kind of okay. He has a good level 5 power spike and good level 8 power spike. But yeah, you really just have to reach the level 8 power spike, which sometimes can be difficult depending on who you lane with. His early game, so is kind of weak. His mid game is very, very strong. His late game is kind of hard to play, I would say. Late game teamfights are difficult. He has a lot of things. And how good is he? I would say he's pretty solid for now. I'm not sure where to rank him yet. Somewhere between TS and Tier B, depending on how you play him, depending on team comps. He has certain things that just look absolutely insane. And then sometimes he also just feels very, very hard to play and very useless. Also, if he just falls a bit behind, doesn't feel like he's made, he just dies very, very fast. And he also seems decently hard to play. And yeah, so I will be talking about his abilities, his head items, and explain you things that you might not know, some gameplay tips, and yeah, that's it. Enjoy the video. Let's start with his evolution line and his passive. So he evolves at level 5 to Dragonair, starting the game as Dratini, and level 8 he goes into Dragonite. But he doesn't get his ultimate at level 8, he gets his Unite move at level 9. But here at level 8 he still is B-Dragonite. And he has two different passives depending on the stage of the evolution he's in. The first two have Marble Scale, which increases defense by 100 when they're afflicted by status conditions, so like they're stunned, poisoned, slowed, frozen, whatever, you know, all those status conditions. And when he gets to Dragonite, he gets Multi-Scale, which makes when damaged by an enemy player, gain above that reduces damage taken by 20% for 2.5 seconds. This ability has a 15-second cooldown. Pretty good for this kind of character, because he's not really ranged. He's like a melee range bruiser. He has to be pretty close to the fight, so having some damage reduction is quite nice. Let's go over the basic abilities. So you start the game with Dragon Breath and Twister. Dragon Breath will be your last hitting tool in laning phase, and Twister will just be some poke damage that also slows opponents down. So yeah, Dragon Breath, after a short of time you do a decent amount of damage. It can be fine for last hitting, and it also resets your boosted auto attack. So for early game trades you want to do this, and another boosted attack, very straightforward. Go to the Twister and use your auto attacks during laning phase. Let's go over Dragonite's boosted attack, which is one of the most interesting things about his kit, I would say. So first off, he has 3 different boosted auto attacks, a Hydro one, an Electric one, and a Fire one, which he cycles through in that order. And also the interesting part is he gains one of those each time he evolves. So Dratini only has a Water one, which heals him for a max of his HP. Every time you boost auto attack, as you can see, you get a small heal. And also every single boosted attack reduces cooldowns by 1 second, and that every single boosted attack does that. So at level 5 we evolve to Dragonair. We get the Electro version, which is a stun. As you can see here, stun. So this can be kind of useful early game, knowing that you can do like a quick stun, a cheeky stun with a Dragon Breath reset. But yeah, since it resets here, it always cycles Hydro, Electro, Fire. So at level 8 we get the Fire version, which will be just execute damage. So the lower HP the enemies have, the more damage it will do. Also Straw, which just burns them and just extra damage. Depending again on the more, like the lower they are on HP, the more damage it will do. It does have a max damage, but yeah. Those are the 3 boosted attacks he has. And again, all of them reduces also his cooldowns by 1 second every time you proc your boosted auto attack. Level 5, when you evolve to Dragonair, you get to choose between Dragon Dance and Extreme Speed. I will only go by Dragon Dance because Extreme Speed seems very lackluster. Dragon Dance seems to be the superior ability in both builds. Doesn't matter if you go Outrage or Hyper Beam. So the way it works is you dash in direction. You don't deal damage with this, but you dash in direction. And your next 3 basic attacks will have extra attack speed. And you also have 3 stages of Dragon Dance, and up to 3 stages, and you will do extra attack damage depending on how many stages you're in. And again, it's always on 3. Also, every single auto attack reduces the cooldown of Dragon Dance by 1. This is very important to keep up your Dragon Dance stacks during team fights and build them up, because it will also increase your Hyper Beam damage, which we go over in a second when I get to Hyper Beam. So yeah, Dragon Dance, it also has a different pattern every single time you move it. Let me just go through this. So we have this movement, and then this movement, and then this movement. It's always cycles between these 3 movements. It's a bit weird, and maybe it takes a bit to get used to, but I mean, in general, it's just a dash. You don't do damage with it, so you just dash in direction and keep refreshing your Dragon Dances. And yeah, very important to keep it at 3 stacks. At level 8, when we evolve to Dragonite, we get to choose between Hyper Beam and Outrage. First, I will go over Hyper Beam. Hyper Beam is a point-and-click charge. You just lock onto something, and after a time, he will shoot out a laser that just travels to the opponent. And that's pretty much all there is to it. It locks onto someone, so opponents can dodge it if they have mobility, or like things to dodge with, or they have low move speed. It's dodgeable for sure. So it's pretty much very good to cast it also close onto someone, since they will have less time to properly dodge it. And now we come to the Dragon Dance Hyper Beam thing. So every stage of Dragon Dance makes Hyper Beam do more damage. Hyper Beam also does damage depending on how much max HP the opponents have. At 0 stages of Dragon Dance you do 5%, 1 stage of Dragon Dance 10%, at 2 stages 15%, and at 3 stages 20% max HP. So it's very important to be at maximum Dragon Dance stacks before you Hyper Beam, or at least be at 2 or 3. I mean, at least be at 2. So this is like the most important thing if you play Hyper Beam Dragonite, to stay at 3 stacks, cause the damage difference is absolutely insane compared to no stacks and compared to 3 stacks. And that's all there is to Hyper Beam. Hyper Beam Plus makes him take less damage during the Hyper Beam charge, which is also quite nice. And that's all there is to it. Let's talk quickly about Outrage. So Outrage is an interesting ability, but I would only recommend Outrage if you play Jungle Dragonite, since it kind of needs a level lead to work. If you fall a bit behind, you're going to be insanely useless. And it also needs the right team comps to play against. If you play against very long-range heavy team comps, you will be absolutely useless. If the enemies have way too much CC, you will also be very useless. But it's an interesting ability. So Outrage converts all his ranged abilities into melee. And every auto attack he does is a boosted attack also, always cycling between. And at the end of Outrage you get stunned a bit, but you can kind of dodge it, since every boosted auto attack uses your cooldowns, right? You can dodge, or you can increase your Outrage, and you just can pretty much dodge the stun by just casting another Outrage. And it also does a bit of damage when you cast it, and it copies the last boosted attack you used. So if your last boosted auto attack was the stun, your Stomp will stun. If it was the burn right now, it will burn. And yeah, it's actually kind of useful to maybe have an AoE stun happening. So like right now, my last boosted attack was the stun, right? So now I will have a boosted, or like I have a boosted AoE stun just around my Outrage. And as well, we use Dragon Dance with this just because we get attack speed from Dragon Dance for the next 3 auto attacks, and gives us also good mobility, and you can see the cooldown reduction we get as well, so we can just stay in fights much longer and be able to just, yeah, auto attack a lot and be able to kite and chase opponents. Level 13 is pretty important for this build, since in case you play against low CC, at level 13 Outrage Plus will reduce the amount of hindrances your character gets, so you'll be less CC'd. It's pretty late into the game, but if you play Outrage Dragonite, that's why I also think you have to play it in jungle, since you kind of need to reach level 13 just so you're able to keep chasing your opponents and auto-attack a lot. And yeah, if you play Outrage Dragonite, try to get to level 13 unless the opponents don't have much CC. But again, if you play Outrage, you want to be over-leveled, otherwise you will you will pretty much just be a bad play Snorlax if you're not over-leveled. At level 9 we get his Unite move, which is kinda a global ultimate, but the best way of using this Unite move is actually kinda close. So he flies up into the air, drops some meteors, and lands on a position. And the most important and interesting thing about this ultimate is, the further you fly away, the longer it goes on cooldown. As you can see, it even has a visual there. So you can see, like right now it would lose 50% of its ultimate charge. So if you actually land right on top of yourself, your ultimate will be at 75% again. So this is the most insane thing about this character, is how much you can spam your ultimate and how like it's supposed to be a global, but the best way of using it is literally just use it as much as you can under yourself, charge it back up again, and just keep having the stat boost. There are certain games where I ulted like 10 times a game, and yeah, it's I don't know, I'm not sure if they thought this completely through, but yeah. I would not really use this as a global ultimate, since it actually has quite long cooldown if you do it. So always try to, don't ult too far away so you can just keep ulting. You can also just engage team fights with this. You can proc Buddy Barrier every 30 seconds. Buddy Barrier has a 30-second cooldown. So I pretty much use this ultimate just as a Buddy Barrier, and for me getting a stat boost most of the time. For better items, the classic eject button is most often the best option. If you play Outrage, full heal can be fine as well, or X-Speed and Outrage. Even though I think those 3 items also work in Hyper Beam quite well. Eject button is just the eject button, but you can try full heal in Hyper Beam, and you can also try X-Speed in Hyper Beam. In Outrage, again, you can X-Speed, eject button, or full heal. I think all are fine. I would say recommend eject button. Let's go over set items very quick before we jump into some gameplay tips, so you guys understand why I'm using this item set. So personally, I run Muscle Band just because he's a ranged auto attacker, right? Makes his laning phase stronger. Muscle Band always one of the best items on ranged auto attackers. Body Barrier and Score Shield. The why I run Body Barrier and Score Shield is just because, as I just showed you when I showed off his Unite move, is that you can spam it on cooldown. And Body Barrier is a 30-second cooldown, which means you can actually backcap with Score Shield quite a lot of points, a lot of times. And you can just get his ultimate back up insanely fast, multiple times, and it allows him to just be kind of cheesy with it and abuse Body Barrier and Score Shield in the same build with a very low cooldown of his ultimate. You can also use, if you don't like this kind of thing, you can also use Scope Lens. If you play Outrage, it's also fine. If you play Hyper Beam, Scope Lens is also okay, since you will be auto-taking a lot. And he has pretty good base attack damage. You can also run Focus Band in both builds if you want to just, live on the edge and just have those short team or quick team fight wins that are very close. And you can also run, Weakness Policy, I would only run in Outrage, not in Hyper Beam, but Weakness Policy is for sure something you can also consider running. And those are the items. I would say always Muscle Band, Body Barrier, just to abuse his ultimate, Body Barrier. Again, you don't use his ultimate as a global, you more use it just to start a team fight with. Melee, or just use in the middle of a team fight to proc Body Barrier. And yeah, personally I run Score Shield, but Focus Band is also fine. I think Razor Claw is okay, Scope Lens is fine, and Weakness Policy is also fine. I wouldn't run Energy Amp just because you don't really do damage with that much. His ultimate is not used for damage, and you just ramp up your ultimate so fast that you don't need Energy Amp. So for a few gameplay tips, as always, it's just very important to keep up your Dragon Dance. So always look for things to auto-attack, and try to pay attention to what your Dragon Dance stacks are at. Since the damage you will do between no stacks Hyper Beam and a full stacked Hyper Beam of Dragon Dance is absolutely massive. So it's one of the most important things about this kit. Try to try just keep up your Dragon Dance stacks as much as possible, and also use your Dragon Dance just to reposition yourself. Again, it doesn't do damage, it's more of a repositioning tool. And yeah, so now we talk about his ultimate and Score Sheet. So what I've been doing is just ulting under myself. Let me do it. Can you ult? Ulting under myself, scoring very fast, and as you can see, it's already back up to 86%. I'm gonna score one more time, and guess what? I can ultimate again. And every time you do this, you also get your ultimate stat boost again. So you will be fast, you will do more damage, you will have your extra attack speed from it. So yeah, it's actually kind of insane. As you can see, I just kill 2 creeps, and I have my ultimate again. And I just used my ultimate 3 times. But I was only able to proc Body Barrier once, so it's the funny part as well. You can actually ult more times than Body Barrier is even up. So yeah, we cap again. Can maybe kill one thing. And that's just some things that are just very funny. And we can ult again actually. We can, now if we have enough coins, we can just ult again. We could have used Score Sheet one more time on a big cap. And our ultimate's almost back up again. That's what I've been doing. I've been trying to split push a good amount as well with this, and just be very annoying. Since you can ult this time, there's always just small coins on the ground, you can ult, you can pick up those small coins. It's sometimes a bit annoying to aim his ultimate, just because it's auto-casting. Where you pick up some coins, pick up another coin. Since every time you score, you get 10% ultimate back. And it's the same on every character, and now we can just ult again. So this is the most insane thing about this Pokemon, honestly. Even though Hyper Beam also looks like it does insane damage. Yeah, try to play around you using your ultimate and just pretty much try to ult every 30 seconds just to proc Body Barrier on someone and just look for a lot of small skirmishes. That's how you want to play mid-game. Mid-game, you just want to ult, Unite move, abuse Body Barrier, look for small skirmishes. Late game, it's going to be a bit awkward. His late game is pretty hard to play. I would say late game team fights, he's not that long range, right? He dies kind of fast as well if he gets once knocked down. And yeah. You can also late game look for backdoor caps with this if you see something's happening. But yeah, I just like doing this and just ulting on myself. And this is why I'm using Score Sheet, because Body Barrier Score Sheet stack, so you have a huge shield, you can get easily 30-40 points in, even when opponents are around. You can also give Body Barrier to a teammate who can also score. So it's pretty cheesy. And then Hyper Beam is a great last-hitting tool for Dreadnought. If you get to full stages, it does absolutely insane last-hit damage, also on Zapdos. So we had 3 stages right now. And you can see this damage right... Wait, I see this damage. It just absolutely destroys objectives if you had 3 stacks of Dragon Dance. It's a very good last hit for Dread and Zapdos. So your main goal is, if you play lane Dragonite, is to get to level 8. You will be insanely strong in the Dreadnought fight. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to this character. And there's some final thoughts towards the end. Where does he fit? The biggest problem he has is in jungle, there's just better jungle characters like Talonflame, Greninja, Cinderace, who will just always outscale him and also have better, like Talonflame just has better mid-game than he has, and Cinder Greninja just outscale him very hard. And in laning phase, so the biggest issue in laning phase is that he needs level 8, right? He needs level 8 super badly, and if you have a lane bad partner, you might not reach level 8 compared to someone like Ninetales who needs level 6. So like we compare him to other range carries, right? He's a range carry. He's someone like Pikachu, Ninetales, Gardevoir, and Venusaur. Venusaur gets level 7, biggest power spike. Pikachu needs level 6 for his biggest power spike. Ninetales level 6 for his biggest power spike. So he's a bit behind. So if you lose laning phase, it's sometimes hard to recover from it. But it's still fine. So you just have to really see who you lane against or who you lane with. And always try to just get as much XP as you can. Don't try to just don't try to be too aggressive in lane. You just need to make sure you get to level 8 as much as possible. But I think he's quite solid. Sometimes he feels very strong. Sometimes he feels a bit lackluster. But he's very fun to play. I think it needs a few more days to figure out where he finds his place in the meta. But I find it pretty fun. And I'm excited to play more. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this guide. As always, please leave a like or subscribe to the channel. Motivates me to do more YouTube-specific content. And yeah, see you guys in the next video. Bye!